Welcome to the TMZ podcast. I'm Charlie Neff.
I'm Derek Kaufman.
Wow, Derek.
Big day. Big morning.
Big morning, especially for you and your department.
Yes.
A lot of documents we funneled through this morning regarding Diddy being arrested and indicted on sex trafficking, racketeering, kidnap charges. We both went through all the documents, and it is brutal.
This is really intense. So obviously this federal investigation has been going on since we saw those raids of his homes in Miami and Beverly Hills. That was the start of a big investigation that has been going on for now months. And what the prosecutors have done is they now got an indictment. And that means he's facing 3 criminal counts. They are racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. But it's really the tip of the iceberg because the allegations underneath those formal charges involve things like narcotics, kidnapping, arson. Remember we heard in the old civil suit that there might have been
blew up someone's car.
Kid Cudi.
Yep,
There was a Kid Cudi allegation of arson. There's bribery, witness intimidation, obstruction of justice. I mean, the laundry list of things we saw in this indictment were truly eye-popping. A lot of it focused on those freak-offs that we've heard about in some of
sex parties where he would be filming, and now we've learned in the documents he would be pleasuring himself while watching these. These sex parties would go on for sometimes days.
Yes.
And there would even be IVs given to the people involved because they were so exhausted.
There was a lot of drug use that's alleged. And so, and prostitution. This is part of the prostitution allegation is that he would lure women in to join him in these freak-offs, then have male
kind of
escorts.
Dangled a career in front of them.
Yes.
Also, gave them this fictitious lie that they were going to be having a relationship with him, but then he would throw him, allegedly, according to these documents, throw him into these freak-offs, make them do all these sexual acts with sex workers.
Yes, sex workers, male prostitutes. There were allegations of abuse. We've heard some of this. There's a direct reference to the March 2016 incident that went public. This is an obvious reference to the Cassie video where he was dragging and beating her really in an open sort of area, not in a hotel room, but rather in the hallway near the elevator. That never went public until recently. The drugs are very interesting because the list of drugs includes cocaine, oxycodone, Xanax, GHB, which is a popular date rape drug, ketamine, which is what killed Matthew Perry. I mean, it is a laundry list of allegations. Like you said, and you've emphasized, this is just an indictment. This is what the prosecutors say they've gathered. Diddy will have his day in court. He's got a very sort of high-profile, high-powered attorney in Mark Agnifilo who says he's going to fight like hell to get him released.
I thought it was interesting because Mark actually gave us a statement and he said, look, Diddy is not a perfect person, but he is not a criminal. And basically making it seem like none of this is true and that Diddy's going to get off. But the U.S. attorney, they actually did a press conference this morning saying that they want no bail for Diddy. They claim he is a flight risk and a danger to society.
Yeah, these are the 2 major elements of saying someone shouldn't be free while we do this criminal case. You need to lock them up. 1, they're a danger. That's a hard one for Diddy because the nature of these allegations are violence towards women. He has a lot of money to run these sex parties. He's not going to be really able to overcome that as easily. Now, the flight risk, you can say, here's my passport. I'm not going to go international. I'm not going to try to dodge justice. But you really have to satisfy both elements. And the U.S. attorney is saying, this guy's a present danger. He's been doing this for decades. You've seen the allegations. We've collected a lot of evidence. And we don't want him on the streets while we're prosecuting this case.
Now, Diddy's attorney is claiming that Diddy knew this was all going down. And he allegedly voluntarily went to New York, was staying at this hotel, assuming that things were going to happen and he was going to need to be there.
We got pictures of him, though, sort of taking
pictures
with fans out the night before.
Looked unbothered. He looked like he wasn't worried about anything going down. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. The indictment is the start of all this. You'll see evidence come out. It'll be interesting to see whether he takes a plea. They're not signaling that he's going to cop to any of this, though. At least his lawyer initially is saying he's going to fight these charges, fight the attempt to hold him without bail. So this is really a huge day. The walls have been caving in for a long period of time, but civil suits are one thing. When you're in the crosshairs of federal prosecutors, it gets much more serious. He's facing decades behind bars if he's convicted on this.
Oof. Oh, my goodness. Well, we'll keep you guys updated. Obviously, we're really spearheading the story. We broke the story last night, so we'll keep you guys updated as it progresses. Moving on, so we'll be also covering topics like Miley Cyrus, Nikki, and Jason Kelce. He actually injured a superfan with a chest bump. But for Miley Cyrus, she's being sued over her famous song Flowers. I can buy myself flowers.
And it's those lyrics. You can sing them along because that's
Yes.
what they're suing over.
Apparently, she allegedly copied Bruno Mars and his song. How does that one? But I can buy you
flowers and hold your hand.
Oh, look at us.
Yeah.
Should we hold
It's
hands?
beautiful.
Come
Look
by
at
us.
this.
We need a little
after all that
fire.
Diddy stuff, this is a much nicer story. It's
I
sort of
know,
toned down.
But I do feel like it's not fair. So basically, she is being sued. Miley is being sued for copyright infringement by Tempo Music Investments. It's a company claiming it owns a share of the copyright for Bruno's song When I Was Your Man.
So Bruno co-wrote the song with a bunch of people. They
Right.
bought a share from one of his co-writers. So I want to be clear that Bruno Mars has not filed this lawsuit.
Yeah.
He's not involved in any way, but it is over his song being copied. According to this lawsuit, they're saying the chord progression, the harmonies, the melodies, and the lyrics. Now, the lyrics are pretty obvious. She is directly referencing the Flowers line in her song. I mean, she's named it Flowers. It's deliberate, but I go to the music. If the music is taken, if it's lifted, the actual notes, they hire a musicologist to say, is this actually taking our song without rights? They might have a case here. I think the lyrics, it's obvious what she's doing.
But do you remember there was that other lawsuit that happened with Taylor Swift for her
Yes.
Shake It Off? And it was like, the play is gonna play. So she was famously sued because they thought it was it was copied by 3LW's Play Is It Gonna Play, which was like big in my generation.
Yes.
But that eventually just like went away. It didn't amount to anything.
Yeah, it's unclear whether that's settled or whether that was thrown out of court. But you're right. You can't just sue someone over having similar lyrics.
Right.
But if the music is similar, and I don't know enough, Eric was mentioning that Flowers sounds
Eric's
different.
our music guru here. He also has a podcast as well with Charles.
Right. That's right. He's got Get to the Hook, so you can probably hear more about that on that podcast. But if it's similar enough, they may have a case here. We'll have to see how this goes, but it looks like someone who just bought a copyright is now trying to cash in on owning a piece of a Bruno Mars song because Bruno's not involved. Bruno doesn't want this. And remember, in the past, Bruno's been accused of this kind of stuff. You remember Uptown Funk?
Yes.
Uptown Funk, I covered countless lawsuits on our
People
website.
Thinking they were.
It sounds like old bands.
Yeah.
A lot of what he does is called like pastiche. He like samples from a bunch of different sources and he sounds like older artists, funk artists, disco artists. So I don't think he wants to mess around in this area. And plus, he's got plenty of money. He doesn't need to sue Miley.
He'll be fine.
He doesn't need that.
Moving on to Nikki and Bella and Artem Chigvintsev, her estranged husband. They were seen together for the first time since his domestic violence arrest, and it looked pretty tense. So, as you guys know, we broke the story about, a month ago or so. Artem was arrested. We had gotten a dispatch call where he says that his wife was throwing shoes at him. Then he told operators, never mind, don't come, don't need ambulance, don't need anyone to respond. About an hour and a half later, he was arrested for domestic violence, presumably because Nikki or the victim had some kind of markings on them. Well, they have not been seen together. However, he came back to the home that they share in Napa Valley, where he was spending some one-on-one time with his son, 4-year-old son, Mateo. And you do see Nikki there as well. At one point, she was in the front yard with him. Definitely keeping her distance.
This is one of the saddest elements of this whole story because although there were no allegations of violence against Mateo, there was an allegation that Mateo witnessed all of this. And he's a very young,
whatever had
impressionable kid.
happened.
Whatever happened.
We don't really fully know what happened. We just have bits and pieces we're kind of piecing together. And neither of them have spoken out publicly.
But she did file for divorce. We did stories that she was looking for a divorce attorney. She did file those documents. And in them, she checked the box for wanting sole, physical, and legal custody of Mateo. However, she also checked that box for visitation. And I review these documents every day.
Does that make sense to do that?
It does. You don't have to check that box, but it's an indication that she's open to having Artem come and visit the child. So maybe there's an awareness that this won't be so acrimonious with respect to Mateo and that they can at least get along from a co-parenting perspective. I think there's no love lost between Artem and Nikki themselves. It looks like it might be a nasty divorce.
Yeah, but she said she wanted sole custody. He responded saying he wanted joint custody.
That's right.
So that tells you that there's already some disagreements going on over the son.
He may seek more custody than she's willing to offer up with visitation because we do these cases. Sometimes the visitation is very restricted and there'll be supervised visitation, only a couple of hours. And if he's very close to his son, which it looks like he wanted to visit him, he's going to want more than that. And he's also not going to be labeled as someone who is a danger to his son from a PR perspective. If this was a disagreement between he and Nikki, he's going to want to continue to parent his son even through this divorce. It's very, very sad to see situations like this involving young children. The divorce will play itself out. We'll see what happens with that, but it could get quite nasty. She was looking for that divorce attorney. She listed the date of separation as
As
the
the
date
day
of this incident.
Yep, totally.
So this is clearly the triggering event. There had been things in the past, right, where the people had said they had a somewhat volatile relationship with arguments.
Like he apparently wasn't very nice to work with on Dancing with the Stars. Some people took it as, oh, he's just really strict. He takes the dancing very seriously.
Right.
But then others were like, oh no, like he had this old dance partner from some British dancing show that said, oh, he threatened that he was going to kill me. Like
Right.
things like that were kind of
He's off Dancing with the
intense.
Stars as of now, and
Right.
it remains
Not
to be
because
seen.
of this incident.
Not because of this. This was beforehand, but whether he's able to salvage any sort of real entertainment career
Yeah.
is a very open question. These allegations are very sticky. Even if it doesn't become something where he is convicted of a crime, it's very different than being able to have a career in Hollywood after something like this.
Absolutely. Moving on to our almost news segment. So Jason Kelce, Travis Kelce's brother, also famous football player, he accidentally injured an Eagles superfan's knee with a chest bump. So I hate even telling these stories because it's like, why are guys doing silly things like this?
I have a son. Everything has got to be physical with guys. You want a chest bump, you want a roughhouse, and this is just how guys roll, especially football, which is all testosterone overload.
Yeah, true. So basically, there's this super fan, rowdy super fan, and Jason was trying to get the fans going during a tailgate. And so they decided to chest bump each other. And this super fan, I guess, landed wrong from the chest bump. This is just ridiculous.
Tweaked
He tweaked his leg. He tried to walk it off, but a short time later, he wrote on Twitter saying, messed up my whole knee, and he said, but so worth it. Which
So worth it.
I just cannot.
You assume the risk. And look, Jason Kelce's a big dude. He's recently retired, so he's still got a lot of muscle on him. He was a Philadelphia Eagles legend. And you chest bump someone who was a center. His whole job was people rush at the quarterback and he protects them. So he's pretty strong.
Yeah.
So you
he's
jump
like
up
a
with
wall.
him. He's a wall of a
Yeah.
human. And so this guy landed a little funny. It sounds like it'll all work
Do you feel
out.
bad for this guy?
I can't say that I have much sympathy. I really can't. I mean, the guy's got a
All right,
Philly
good,
fanatic
good.
tattooed on his stomach.
Yes.
He was bound for something like
Some
this.
injury.
And it sounds like he doesn't regret it. He'd do it again.
I'm
Bad
gonna
knee and
call.
all.
I'm gonna call out one of our employees here, Connor Hurley. He's a huge Buffalo Bills fan. He always goes to like the tailgating parties,
Yes.
and I guess they do this thing where you have a
table.
table,
Yes.
and he goes and he like does this thing where he like leaps off of a chair and like body slams and breaks the table, and he like stretches before.
I gotta
I'm
talk
just
to
like,
Connor about
what
this.
are we doing?
He's in his 30s now.
Yeah.
Your table jumping days are behind you. He doesn't want to let them go. This guy tweaked his knee.
Gotta
This
let
is what
this go.
happens. Let
too.
it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Moving on to today in history, things that happened on this day in the past. Well, first of all, today is Apple Dumpling Day.
Oh, that's a nice holiday.
Have
Do
you
you
had-
celebrate Apple Dumpling Day every
Not
year?
really. I'm not a big. I don't think I've ever had an apple dumpling.
I don't think so either. It sounds like a
Is it
little like
an
apple pie.
fritter?
Yeah, I would
Oh,
imagine
okay.
it's like some sort of bread with some cinnamon and apples.
Yeah,
sounds
sounds
delicious.
about right.
I'll have it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, right. They should
Whenever
do
we
that.
used to have these holidays,
Here.
we used to always be able to get Harvey to be like, Harvey, it's Apple Dumpling Day, and then he'd
Yeah.
like bring in whatever the day is. And Charlie,
hasn't
you used to have
happened.
such a skill.
I know. But after a point, it was like every day. Like yesterday, we had Raising Cane's chicken tenders in here. Like at a point, like I got to be able to walk out of this
I get
building.
you.
I'm like being wheelchaired out at this point.
I get you.
Moving on. So this day in 1926, Mexican artist Frida Kahlo was severely injured in a bus accident, which really changed the trajectory of her life because during recovery, she began painting and abandoned her original plans for a career in medicine.
Yeah, this was a big story back in the day, and
She had like
became who
30
she is.
surgeries because of this specific accident, which really influenced her paintings over the years.
You know what's funny? It's in 1926. If you get injured now, you like lay up in bed and you watch TV. She had to
Yeah.
do something to occupy her
Right,
time, and she
right.
became one of the most incredibly important painters of all history. And now we get a bunch of couch potatoes when they're recovering from these kind of things.
Yeah,
Don't you,
true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's such a good point. This day in 1949, the Coyote and the Roadrunner had their first race.
Oh, meep.
Yeah.
Love them.
Oh,
Love them. They're my
meep.
favorite. They're
Who
my
was
favorite.
the one that did Suffering Succotash?
Suffering Succotash. That's Sylvester and Tweety. Come on.
Wait, is that the same Warner Brothers?
They're all in
yeah,
the same
okay,
universe.
Okay.
But
Acme or whatever.
Coyote, I mean, Coyote and Roadrunner, it's like
They were great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think anyone won ever, right?
No, there's no winners in these games.
Okay.
Only losers.
This day in 1989, 1983, Vanessa Williams became the first Black Miss America. However, it was short-lived because Penthouse magazine purchased nude pics of her that were taken a year earlier, which she thought were private and destroyed, and she eventually stepped down from Miss America. But this was the day she was crowned Miss America.
This was a huge scandal back in the day, but first, before it became a scandal, she was just Miss America. It was amazing.
She's beautiful. This day in 2011, Adele's song "Someone Like You," oh God, hit number one.
Maybe you should have given up on singing after the first pitch we did, but good. I like it. Adele, big shoes to fill.
Yes. Birthdays today: Phil Jackson, Billy the Kid, famous gunslinger.
Yeah.
Robert Herjavec and Elvira, Mistress of the
love
Dog.
Elvira. Are you gonna dress up as Elvira for Halloween?
No.
Have you ever done Elvira?
Maybe as a kid.
Maybe
Is that weird? Is that weird? A sexy
Maybe a little
Elvira
bit. Maybe a little odd.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And thanks, Derek, for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you tomorrow.